Hello everybody, welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. I'm Andrew White, I'm the host of this podcast, and I hope you've been coming over and over again for these amazing guests. A few trigger warnings today that are going to appear during this ever heavy episode. And I want to start by asking you a question. How long can you bury grief before it buries you? How many losses can one person endure before they stop feeling altogether? Well, today's guest, Fur Wale, lost her mother to a brain tumour, survived abuse from a family friend, and watched her father take his own life after losing the love of his life. For years, she suppressed it all, pushed down the pain, locked away the trauma, and kept moving forward until she couldn't anymore. Being in a similar position to losing her father, she was close herself to taking her life. But Fur had a choice: follow his footsteps or find another way. What saved her wasn't what you'd expect. It was the stage, raw authenticity, and the courage to finally feel everything she's been running from. This is a story about what happens when we stop suppressing and start healing. This is about leading our own way through unimaginable loss. Here's the trailer. Here's part one. Please give us a follow. Here's Fur Wale and myself. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, Eshu Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with leading our own way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to Eshu Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on Leading Our Own Way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect. Fur Wale, I've got a question for you. On a counter of 1 to 10, what state would you say your mental state is currently at?
That's a great question. Andrew, my mental state, I'm really proud to say, is 10 out of 10. But that took a lot of work. And there was a time where I would have said it was really bordering on 0 out of 10.
Wow. Well, that will become very clear and very powerful by the end, I'm guessing, because that's what the podcast is all about, is for people to understand people's journeys, because everyone's got a journey and every journey is worth sharing. And it is powerful that people can take pieces away and implement where they feel fit into their life. But let's begin. Fur Wale, thank you for joining me on Leading Our Own Way. It's such an honour to have you here. And it's been a while since we've spoken, but it's such an honour to have you here. Yeah, I love it.
It's fantastic. I love what you're doing. I love the professionalism. I love the whole mission. It's since we met, it's just been a wonderful journey getting to this place.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice to hear, and it's always nice to hear it, I guess. But yeah, I get a bit blush, and we'll move past because I get embarrassed.
Okay.
But on that note, though, we met at a LinkedIn event in Melbourne.
Yes.
I've had a few guests from where I met that day. I've been to 2 events. Do you still attend the LinkedIn events?
I haven't been for ages. I haven't.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Do you plan on going back?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. I'll definitely go back. It's actually quite nice. Get a steak and hang out with amazing people like yourself. It was good.
Awesome. Yeah. Love it.
Well, you're doing many wonderful things too. You're on a bit of a mission. What mission are you on for?
What mission am I not on? Above everything else, I'm really interested in empowering individuals, particularly women and children, to have a voice. And Andrew, to lead in their own way, to take those, to step into the right rooms and onto the bigger stages, whatever that means for them, and share their message, which is part of the fabric of what evolves life, rather than putting life on repeat, meaning, rather than living life out generically.
So is this something you do as part of your career and profession now?
Yes, that is it. Yeah.
Love it. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do every day and how your day might look then.
Yeah, sure. I'm a keynote speaker, so I'm booked to speak, and I have a variety of topics that I can deliver. I work in the corporate domain and then in like the business domain as well as community groups. At the moment, actually, I'm running an anti-racism training, but I also run workshops in schools, and they're leadership workshops, but they're founded in creativity, so cartooning, animation, and clay making. I also work with kindergarten all the way up until high school, and then I do some training within universities. But I guess really to sum it up, I'm a speaker, and I do training and development consultancy. Yeah.
Love it. What's your business called? Because I'd love to put it in your show notes so anyone's interested, we can take it a bit further.
She talks. So
Yeah.
you can tell I work with women. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. On the note of talks, you've actually done, I forgot about this, but I noticed on LinkedIn, and we did discuss it on the pre-chat, but I didn't write anything down.
Yeah.
You actually did I think a good talk, a conversation, a public speaking event with my former guest, good friend of mine now, Trav Bell, the bucket list guy.
Oh my gosh. I love Trav. I think that was one of my funnest talks. It was for the Geelong Women in Business, and they double booked us, meaning like we were both keynotes. And it was so cool to meet Trav, because the first time I heard him speak I was part of Entrepreneurs Alliance. So that was like a closed mastermind group that ran for a year. Trav came in and delivered, and I thought, this guy, I one day want to be speaking on the stage with him. He's fun. He's interesting. There's alignment. And the funny thing was, it wasn't very much longer, not much long after that we got booked to go and speak at a gig. And we just went straight up to the bar, bought me a drink, chatted, did our talk. It was great.
Yeah, I love Trav. Shout out to Trav Bell. He's currently living the dream all the way in Bali, doing his thing. He's not around here anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd love to catch up with him again. And we had a great episode. It was so good. I got his book here, and just an amazing dude. And anyone who's listening should go and listen to the Bucket List Guy, because he openly admits in the episode, I just call myself a bucket list guy, or somebody in America called him a bucket list, and they just genuinely believe he's the number one bucket list guy in the world. Right. But he's just, I'm self-proclaimed. That just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If you could. And that has integrity. That's authentic. It's complete integrity, because that is how it is. He's not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. If you could give yourself I don't know what the right word is, but like Trav did, what would yours be if you could give yourself?
Look, I'm just authentic. I just have a lot of integrity around authenticity, because I've never been interested in leading in a way that imitates what we already have. And I'm interested in leading in a way that's what I would call true, authentic, in a way that's needed and not expected. So, and it's the thing that everyone says, wow, you're just really authentic.
Yeah. I love that. I do love that word, authentic, and I've heard that word heavily used over the last few years. I love it. It's all about being real. I get it, but I've been searching for the perfect definition of authenticity, and I heard a human biologist say it just maybe 2 months ago, and he said authenticity is when you tell the truth but you believe it.
Nice. I would add to that, it's not, you're not trying to impress someone, you're not trying to fulfill others' expectations, and it's not that we don't work along with other people and meet our brief, for example, but we're not living a life where we're people pleasing and completely ignoring our own truth. And authenticity isn't about just spilling your guts and saying it raw. That isn't it. It's just sort of, it's really based in integrity, where you're honouring right where you are. And authenticity, I mean, if you're not being authentic, you're either people pleasing, you're trying to act professional, you're trying to act like the expert, you're trying to act like the know-it-all. That's inauthentic.
Yeah.
So when someone's authentic, you know what you're working with. And you yourself know right where you are and what you're working with. Yeah, it's a good
Yes,
place to
so
be.
true. I was a people pleaser for a very long time. I've, in recent years, definitely put my boundaries up, which has made me feel more authentic. And now when I reflect on the past, I certainly was so far away from being authentic, even though I was being myself
Right.
to a certain point.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Because you are being yourself, but there's sort of there's some lack of awareness there around what patterns are playing out, what roles you're playing out in order to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel respected, or to get whatever needs you need met.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same with leadership, because my journey has come from, I don't know if you remember, the pre-chat was such a long time, but my journey is around, I suppose, inauthentic, toxic, let's say, leadership and workplaces. And it not necessarily have to be a leader, but just even team people being toxic, or unauthentic to a certain point. I forgot where I was going with that now, but I think that's where when people talk about being professional, I'm like, yeah, but that isn't being yourself, because you're not professional at home. And I think people have a three lives. The secret life that nobody knows, only you know, and that's the thoughts, the thing you do in your private space, whether you're with a family or not. And then you've got your secret, like private life that you and your family only know, and it's your home, and you are different. And then you got your public life, what people see, and I think there's a mask that goes on everybody to a certain point, right? Because nobody acts like they do in their private secret life out in the workplace.
Not exactly. No. That's true. There's elements of me that I would not bring into a workshop or into a conversation or even on stage, because it's just me completely letting off steam and being a goose, right? Just being like a child. But it's not relevant, because it's not going to deliver my message.
Yeah.
That's authentic.
Yeah.
My role is to deliver a message, and I'll choose how I need to deliver that message. That's not acting. That's delivering the message. But I think, and I teach this with the women that I train in public speaking, if your top goal is to sound professional, sound like the expert, and like you have it all together, which is inauthentic, then you've got the wrong goal. Because the funny thing is, the interesting thing is, and you know this, Andrew, is that when you actually are authentic, there's a whole nother level of professionalism that comes in that is really obvious to people. So you're, one, down to earth, easy to relate to, easy to open up to, but you have this level of professionalism because it's integrous, it's integrity. You're coming from a place of integrity. You're coming from a place of wholeness, realness, truth.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, we're animals. We read each other. We're sensing each other, even if we're not intellectually, putting it into an understanding. We're sniffing each other out, or we're reading each other's energy, and we get a sense about people, about they're not quite integrous. They don't quite have. There's something about that person that isn't quite genuine or real, and I can't put my finger on it, perhaps. And that's just lack of authenticity. And we all have to go through it in order to get to the place where we are authentic. I mean, children are authentic, but we don't always want to be in that state, because it's not what, like I said, it's not what you want to bring to the stage when you're delivering a keynote, and it's not what you want to bring to a workshop. So
yeah. Fascinating. Connection is, I mean, all of those points, create, when you are authentic, you feel safe even just making mistakes, and
yes.
You know what I mean. And when you make mistakes in front of other people, obviously making mistakes on purpose to create a safe space isn't necessarily authentic. But because some people do that as a tactic, don't they?
They do. Yeah.
But if you do make mistakes and then you reflect there and then in the moment, going, oh, I've just made a mistake, or you can open up by saying, apologizing or acknowledging the mistake. You do naturally create a safe space for other people to follow that lead and don't feel edgy around you or nervous around you. It's the infinite mindset, isn't it? Rather than the finite mindset. You're thinking of the long game versus the short game and getting those
You're
quick
not trying to
results.
hide. You're not trying to hide behind this mask of professionalism or expertise.
Yeah.
Because if your number one goal again is those things, then of course you are not going to be comfortable with making mistakes. And I
Yeah.
just hate making mistakes. And
Me too.
I didn't realize that I had this going on, that I had this trying to look like I've got it all together and I know what I'm doing. Early days of my business, until I was writing for my book. Actually, I was one of the co-authors writing a chapter for this book, and I couldn't work out why I couldn't get my message out. And I had a conversation with a very dear friend who will just tell me the truth. And she says, why are you trying to sound professional? You don't need to. You already are professional. So it's that acting like you already are thing as well, which comes across as inauthentic. That's where I realized it, when I'm trying to write this chapter and it was coming out dry, uninteresting, and downright boring, to be honest.
Did it turn out your best work?
Yeah. The second book did. The second one did. There was still a little bit in there, but yeah.
What were your books called?
The first one is The Feminine Force of Success, and so that's co-authored, and the second one is also co-authored. It's about health and well-being. So it's a wellness book. Thriving is, what is it? Thriving. Thriving is, I'll tell you in a moment.
Yeah, it'll come. Well, we'll have to get the books here on your shelf, and I'll put the links in the show notes, and if it can help.
Because my first ever degree was as a naturopath, so I studied the sciences of natural medicine. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in like the integrative doctors.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. In fact, I'm just a complete health nut. I've got like jars of herbs and drink herbal tea every day and eat mostly raw, and yeah.
Well, that's, that ties into kind of where I was taking it. We've discussed the professional. Have we missed anything else out in the sense of your professional, of how you're leading your own way?
Pretty much, yes. I think outside the box. 10 years ago when I started, and I decided I was going to run a business for women in public speaking, because that was what was missing for me. I had a real fear around public speaking due to earlier experiences in my life. And I went and did some professional training because I was getting asked to get up and speak on larger stages through the council in St Kilda. In fact, the first audience they put me in front of, there were 1,000 people in the room. I nearly died.
Oh, that was a lot.
I shook and I went red and I was quiet, but I had a microphone, and it was pin drop quiet because people were trying to hear me, but that made me more nervous, and government officials in the front row. But fortunately, I wasn't giving my own talk. I was talking about homelessness in the city of the Port Phillip. So it was okay. I had a piece of paper I was reading from, but I nearly died. But the thing is, I went and got some professional training, and I realised here I am learning all of this stuff that you're supposed to remember. The stagecraft, how to rate your voice, how to lower your voice, where to look, remembering your talk, how to script your talk. And I completely had more fear because I had more to remember. And then they were telling me to fake being confident and to imagine, literally back then, they were telling me to imagine the audience nude. And I just felt like that lacked integrity, and it wasn't doing the audience any service. It wasn't helping me. I was faking. I didn't want to fake it. That set me up for imposter syndrome, which it does. So now I have this beautiful opportunity to I started She Talks really outside of the box, and it was taboo back then. I had people literally telling me, your business is going to fail, women don't want that. It was a business for women, led by a woman, and I was being told by these professional speakers, it's the same. You got to write a talk, which is tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them why you told them, and close with what you told them, and then just get up, be professional, act confident, and eventually you will become a great speaker. And I thought that is the lamest advice ever for a woman, because we come in with a lot of emotion. We're very open to reading the energy in the room. We take everyone in. We're designed that way. We're designed to take the community in. We don't do that single focus as well as men do.
Yeah.
We do the broad focus. And we really, it's interesting. I started running these workshops, Andrew, and the only objective I said to the women was, today, all you need to do is just be authentic. You're not going to try and be a professional speaker. You're not going to learn any skills that comes down the track. And every single woman, and there were over 4,000 of them in that first year, said, you freed me. You freed me.
Yeah.
They didn't have imposter syndrome. They didn't hide behind anything. And their messages became really interesting because their natural language came up. They weren't trying to act professional, and we identified that as well. So yes, I've led my own way based on, because I've never wanted to lead in a way that just happened to be there. I've always questioned it and said, why does that work? How does that work? Does that apply to me? Does that apply to you? Yeah. When does it apply? Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought these up, because I did a public speaking event for Tessa Jetson, who you know, and I love talking. I'm pretty famous for talking, and you know, you can see people's eyes going, oh good. I don't think people answer their phone because they know I can talk.
Come on.
Oh no, I'm serious. Oh no, they've told me. I know. Anyway, that's fine. That's why the podcast exists, because this is my private area. I can talk and just go for it, and I don't care. Anyway, so I get really nervous about the idea of speaking on stage, but as soon as I'm up there and you give me a mic, you ain't getting me off.
Yep.
It's bizarre. I feel physically sick with nerves. This is again me being real, but I remember when I did it for Tessa, her friend who was doing the minutes. You've got so many minutes left. I remember thinking she put the 5 up, and it was like a 12-minute speech, and she put the 5 up, and I looked at my slides thinking, I'm only a quarter of the way through here.
Right.
Because I just went on. But again, that was being authentic, right? And because moments came into my head that felt right, and I went with it. And yeah, there might be a few here, and the deeper I go, and I want to do, I'm not going to lie, but I want to do a TEDx talk.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, there's a bit of a name of mine, and I don't know where I find the time to do it, but I want to do it. And people, the more we talk about it, the algorithm comes up in the phones, and more people then start to go, you need the coach, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I actually, my gut, my intuitions are always coming out of me, and it says what you just said. I don't want to get a coach, because I'm actually naturally a good speaker, even on a mic.
And anyway, just to give you a heads up, if you don't already know, TEDx is actually, it's both harder and easier than you think. Harder because people think it's this big, hairy, audacious thing, which it is, but also it isn't. Because what happens is you send in your pitch. If you get accepted, it's a 1-minute pitch. That's probably the most challenging. Yeah. And then you get accepted. They are literally going to give you the structure. You're going to sit with them, and they're going to say, you'll open with that. You can put that as your story and close, but it is you doing you. It is you speaking as you. And they're just going to help you put it all together in a nice sort of neat box to be delivered.
Yeah.
It's easier than people think, actually.
Have you done a TEDx talk?
No, I haven't. And I actually, to be funny, I've been chasing other goals, but I keep getting a lot of people say, when are you doing it? When are you doing it? When are you doing it? I'm going, okay, all right, I'll do it.
Do it. We'll do it together.
Next year.
Yeah. I've been speaking to people who, have signs, intuition, the signs and stuff like that, the coming through, telling me. And I've had a few people tell me I won't be doing a TEDx talk here. I should be aiming to do one in the UK, where I'm from. So I should aim to have one done. You
should literally aim to do it where because there's some really small TEDx's here, like the university, and it's probably not going to do you too many favors. But if you went to Sydney, if you go to UK, I was looking at Athens and I was looking at Sydney. but I actually want to get my goal is to get on the TED stage, not the TEDx stage.
That's the bigger one, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And my goal is to go. My first goal is Mind Valley, and I'm going to speak there in July next year.
Lovely.
So that's my goal, and then I can. The other thing about leading my own way is that what it means to be a woman as a speaker and what topics we've been allowed to speak about. I was really fortunate. I was on a train. I got talking to this guy. He was interested, what do you speak about? Where do you speak? And he invited me to speak at the Professional Surveillance University in the CBD, which most people wouldn't know about it. So they're training spies, and I mean international spies. And so I went in there. They had their first year of having all women and just a couple of guys, whereas every other year prior to that, for the last 30 years, they've only had men. So we've seen a real shift towards leading with empathy, and it's not something they ever taught before. And I had the opportunity to go in and talk about the strengths of feminine leadership. It was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
What were some of the key points that you took on that they would have not thought of before?
So the main thing is about how women negotiate. Women, and it's that thing I was saying before where we consider the whole, whereas the men were, first of all, I asked, how would you go in and interrogate someone? And the men say that they essentially assume that they're wrong, whereas the women were saying they assume that they might not be in the wrong. And they're looking for where they're not in the wrong, whereas the men are looking for where you've done it. You're the criminal, you've done it. And that really was the key thing in just how women, when they approach it from having more empathy and kindness and listening and not assuming that they're in the wrong, they got more information out of the assailant.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Really.
So it trips up the male spies then?
And here's what we got at the end of it, with the feedback. And these are all 20-year-olds. They're all just going into uni for the first time to be trained like this. And they were saying that they really had an epiphany. They really they were rethinking their whole approach. And in fact, the school changed some of their syllabus based on that talk. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well,
so
thanks for
now
that.
they have to consider both ways of interrogating someone. Yeah.
Well, I hope they're honouring the information and learnings that they took from you. I hope they honour that and actually implement it, because that's the next step,
I'm
isn't
still
it?
in touch with one of the trainers there, so yes, they are.
Oh, beautiful. That's good to hear. Good. Great. Oh, that was interesting.
Yeah.
I might be interviewing an international spy, actually, a former CIA agent, to be honest.
That's exciting.
Not guaranteed, people, but he's been on the Diary of the CEO. He's quite a famous world-class spy.
All right,
And I messaged him and he said, oh, please, I'm interested, but email me. And I was like, okay, I've just not wrote the email yet.
Okay, good. Get onto it.
I will. No, it's one of the things to do.
Yes, yeah.
So before, at the beginning, you said around when I asked you that very first question of a scale of mental health from 0 to 10, you're currently on 10. But you also explained that you've been on a 0. And I know we're going to dig into your journey and people will see and feel that 0. But being on that 10 doesn't come naturally. Every day we get up every morning, and on this podcast we do talk heavily around morning routines. We've discussed food, nutrition, eating raw yourself earlier. What are some of the things that you do to, I suppose, I wrote a book called How to Lead with Purpose, but knowing what I know now with everything else that you can see on my shelf, brain health, nutrition, food, mood, responsibility, the brain, right? What do you do to set yourself up every single day? Just taking a very quick break to thank our sponsor, SU Skincare. If you haven't heard of them, SU Skincare started right here in Australia, using Australian ingredients to make skincare straightforward and accessible, especially for men who want results without the fuss. Their journey took them all the way to the US, where they were featured in Macy's and over 300 stores. Now they're back with a fresh approach, focusing on healthy skin and authenticity for everyone. I'm proud to have SU Skincare as a sponsor on Leading Our Own Way. See the show notes for their website and to see how you can keep your skin healthy and confident. And if you're interested in sponsoring like SU Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Now, right back to the episode.
The most important thing which changed my whole world is to really pay attention to the thoughts and feelings when I first wake up. And the thing is, you can sort of overlook that part of the day and just get up and start your day.
Yeah.
But it's what takes you into the day. You know, people tend to wake up and go back online and think about all the things they need to do or haven't done, or, you know, like where they messed up yesterday, etc. And I won't do that. I'm waking up with a sense of, here's another day to create the life that I want, that I choose, but also the feelings in your body, because sometimes we can carry, and it's really common, we carry disappointment. We carry these sort of frustrations, you know, and they're really quite depressing feelings, but we don't actually feel depressed from them. So they can just, they're sort of covert, and they can just be there from the minute you wake up all through your day.
Yeah.
So it's really important. Look, I was just having this conversation with someone who believes in balance, and I'm like, well, actually, I don't believe in balance. I think it's the wrong goal. If we're trying to, and happiness is the best way to talk about this. If you're seeking to be happy, you're always in that striving to get there, and so you can easily feel disappointed because you're not there yet. You're not there yet. When's it going to happen? So I don't think that way. I don't live that way. I live in the rhythm of life, and I don't expect to always be up, and I know that I'll never ever be down, because I've had down and I'll never go back there. I'll never be that. I'll never allow my mind to go there. And not only that, I have so much gratitude for what I've created now and how just gorgeous my life is compared to how rock bottom it actually got at one stage. Yeah.
So you mentioned eating raw. Is that a big part of your daily practice as well?
Yes. So my food would be between 50 to 80% raw. Yeah. And I'm vegan, and I've been vegetarian since 10 years of age.
Yep.
Yeah. Exercise is big. Yoga is big. I do meditation. I've meditated since I was I started at 10, but I'd say properly in my 20s. I really went deep into it in my 20s. So I have a lot of practices that are now just in the fabric of my life. I don't actually have to get up and go, let me do my routine. It's just right there. Yeah.
Do you focus on sleep?
Oh, sleep is so important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I go to bed around 10:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What time would you say you get up?
Go outside, get sunlight. I like to walk on the grass in bare feet to ground, fresh air. I've always got the door open. Yeah, all of that. It's
fascinating.
All matters. Yeah.
Well, I teach this to the children that I teach, and I say this a lot to adults around sleep. And I always say, you don't understand how important sleep really is, because I don't think people sleep anymore. I think we're really poor, with devices. When I say don't sleep, they'll fall asleep, but it doesn't mean their brain's going through all the healthy sleep cycles.
And
right?
they're not. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Naturally, they do fall asleep, but it's the quality of sleep that we should be looking at. But I say to them, look, sleep actually doesn't make sense if you think about it, because innately as humans, for the 4 or 5 million years our human physiology has been around, give or take. I know we didn't look like we look now. We're not the Homo sapiens. It was the Homos before. I forgot all the different names, Homo erectus, and even before that, I can't even pronounce the names of the. I think we've had 4 cycles of human physiology. I think it's 4 or 5 categories, and sleep doesn't make sense because innately 3 things we need to do is to eat, defend ourselves, and reproduce. And they're the 3 things you cannot do when you're sleeping. Right. However, the brain hasn't evolutionized sleep out of its repertoire. Maybe.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, that's true. But I will add to that, I think sleep, other than how it regulates hormones, how it's when we detox.
Absolutely.
There's something even more important that happens in sleep. And maybe I'm reminding you of this. When we get into deep sleep, REM sleep, the fear center of the brain switches off. It is the only time in our day that we get to process those things that we refuse to look at, that we shove down, that we wouldn't normally consider. And often, sometimes that comes out as a nightmare. And it's a really good process to, whatever dream you have, or if it's a nightmare, to look at it and go, that's a great opportunity to transform something that I wasn't willing to look at. Let me look at that. and let me be okay with having another nightmare. But it's the only time that we get to process stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be looking at, because our fear center just goes, no,
Yeah.
we're going to suppress that. We're going to put that into the back of the mind and not look at that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, good quality sleep will prevent things like Alzheimer's and,
Yes.
down the track. This is how important sleep is. But that's just to show you, though, even though we can't do those three things during sleep, the brain hasn't got rid of it. If it was that important to do those three things over sleep, the brain would have got rid of it, and it hasn't. It's kept sleep.
That's what you were saying. I thought you were saying
No, I wanted to make sure you understood. I was trying. My point was that's how important sleep is. It will take over the fact that you're eating. It'll take over that you can't reproduce and defend.
And another thing happens that they've just proving, and I don't know what people believe in regards to consciousness or quantum physics, the field. And the field is a biofield, and it's full of biophotons. Photons, yes, are particles of light. Yes, we get photons from the sun, which can penetrate every part of us, penetrates bone, organs, cells, etc. Normal lights will only just penetrate to the layer of the surface layer of the skin, so they're not particularly healing, even if it's a healing light. But there's biophotons in the ether, in the air, in the field. And when we're laying down to sleep, we're apparently we're more receptive to taking them in. So this is a new field of research that's just happening, which is very exciting because it's part of energy production, it's part of regulating moods, it's part of being able to, again, process information. So it all comes together in it's kind of magic.
Absolutely. Yeah, the brain's a wonderful thing. And absolutely. And I changed my whole sleep pattern 3 years ago and really started to focus on that. Even just looking at how I can get my brain to go into healthy deep sleep and go through all the different zones throughout the night. I took a lot of.
You want to feel good the next day? Sleep is the best remedy. And women, if you want to lose weight, you've got to sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh God. And we talk about getting good sleep. It's not your sleep habits. It is, but if you want to change your sleep into a healthy one, it's not the sleep habits at night that you need to sort out. It's the ones that you do in the morning to help set your circadian rhythms for the day.
Sunlight. Yeah,
sunlight's the best thing. And like you said before about standing on grass, if you pluck your blood and look at your red blood cells before standing on grass, you'll see all the red blood cells clumped together.
Correct.
But if you stand on grass and do it again, they'll all be nicely spread out. Yeah.
And the other thing about being around trees, they emit, I've forgotten what they've called now, but they emit something which promotes our emotional state. It's feel good hormones. It stimulates our feel good hormones. And the other thing in the air, we have things like there's minerals in the air, like gold and silver is in the air, and we need those. You think about children, if you look at a blonde child, their hair's kind of golden. It's because there's lots of gold in their hair, gold and silver and other minerals. And then as we age, those get depleted because the body uses minerals to detoxify. But we need fresh air, sunlight, all of it. We need to be outside more than inside, the truth be told. Yeah.
I tell this to the families and the children at schools. We used to spend 85% of our time outdoors, and now we're spending 97% of our time indoors. And it's things that we're on now. I know we're contradicting ourselves being on the screen, but hopefully there's some good that can come from this. But everyone else is on devices to the last point of day.
Add this in as the last point, if it is indeed the last point for health. EMFs and things like that, they're really toxic, and you've got to get off, and I know you've heard it before, everyone, but you've got to get off devices for a period of time. You've got to turn off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Maybe just use the internet on your phone because it's less invasive on the body. So it's less damaging on your cells and your DNA and your RNA and your energy production, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? What we're learning more recently is fascinating. I'm sure it'll debunk us in 10 years and will be something new.
Yeah, we're always learning, aren't we? Yeah.
Always. Yeah. So that's your 10. And that's where you're at mentally as a 10. You can see the importance and where you've learned and implemented it into your life. How would that a 0 looked then in your life?
Well, that was wanting to just be out. I didn't want to be part of this life anymore. I couldn't find a way around anything. I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't even trust myself. And as much as I kept trying, it was just, I was in a state of depression. I had chronic anxiety. I couldn't walk out the door. And when I talk about this, I just, it's like I cannot relate to that person anymore.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it would be possible for me to be that, but I was that. And it makes sense. I went through a lot of trauma, I had post-traumatic stress. Yeah.
What age are we looking at some of the points you just mentioned?
Okay, so you know, when you have post-traumatic stress, like it's because either one thing was impactful or there's a multiple amounts of trauma that just build up. So for me, it was the build up. So from around the age of 16, having said that, there were things happening a bit before that. When I started developing breasts, for example, around the age of 12, I was getting a lot of comments. Back then, oh my gosh, it was gross. Back then, men would tap a woman or a young girl on the bum and call you a good girl. They would say, great boobs when you're walking down the street, great ass. And this was all kind of acceptable. But to be honest, when you're a woman and you're walking down the street, even though you're with your mum or whoever, you don't feel safe. And so it really started from the age of 10, you know, and then escalated, yeah.
So paint a picture of your childhood before 10 then.
Really beautiful childhood, lots of holidays, really beautiful parents that I would just look at and admire, especially in the morning. We'd all get up and us kids would get up and my mum and dad would be in the kitchen hugging and kissing and we'd squeeze in between and get their arms around us, and things like going into my parents' ensuite. This is a personal story, but they'd be in the shower and we'd go, can we come in? And they go, okay. And I'd sit on the toilet, on the top of the toilet. The brothers would sit on the floor and my dad would be brushing my mum's hair. And just, they had parents who were, both had parents who were very religious. Dad's dad was a minister and mum's parents were Seventh-day Adventists, so you can imagine. And so they decided that when they were going to have children, that they would run a household where we all were part of the decision making, and that they would allow us to have a voice, and that they would allow us to develop our own personalities rather than trying to fit us into this well-behaved box. And so we had a kind of upbringing that I didn't realize was unique at the time, but there was a lot of love. There were a lot of stopping to have conversations about things and talk about what we'd like to do and if that was possible and how much of that was possible, like going to a party with a bottle of alcohol. Which bottle would you like to take? Oh, that big bottle of scotch. Okay, well, then who's going to be drinking that? So we would literally have conversations about anything and everything. And I think it just allowed us all to feel a sense of freedom in our lives and more like life was good. We were taking holidays and life was good. It was just lots of mucking around and joking and wrestling my dad to the ground and things like that. Yeah.
Sounds like an awesome childhood.
It was awesome. Yeah.
So 10 years comes along, you're 10 years old. Where did it start to kind of go wrong then?
Just little things like that my dad's best friend who would tell me things like, tell me off for having my own opinion. They came from a Greek island. They moved in next door. It was myself, my two younger brothers, and then at that time they had 3 daughters, same age as us 3, and so we became friends with them. But he kept comparing us to his children, and I'm not exactly sure whether he was doing the grooming then or not. I'm not sure, but he was definitely wanting to make sure that I didn't feel like I was, like, he hated that I had an opinion. He didn't think I should have an opinion, and he kept telling my dad that he was making a mistake in the way that he was raising us, that we had too much freedom and we should be quiet when we were around the adults, and we should just go get a beer for him and things like that. And, because I was raised with an opinion, I would just talk back. But for me, it wasn't rude. It was, I need to share my opinion. And he thought I was talking back. So there was a bit of punishment going on. So he would put me down, tell me I was ugly, tell me that I was a tomboy full of scars, no man would ever want me, which I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't want man to want me. But anyway, he would tell me that I couldn't sing, that I couldn't act, all the things that I love doing. He'd tell me his daughter was better looking. Yeah.
Did you do this privately or in front of your dad?
Privately, no. If that was in front of my dad, my dad would have spoken up. Yeah.
Did you ever go to your dad?
Not then, no. Actually, I never did. I never got the chance. Yeah.
Why didn't you? Why do you think now, looking back with, your life experience and self-reflection, why didn't you do it during the time, considering you're opinionated and quite confident?
So from the age of 10 to 16, it felt like water off a duck's back. Until he literally took advantage of me, and it felt like it's like the story collapses in on itself and it all matters. It's all the meaning comes together. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I put all the thread together, and yeah.
So you're friends with his children?
Yes.
And what age was he? How old? Sorry, what was your age? I'm trying to be sensitive at the same time. How old were you when he took advantage of you?
Yeah, I was, first he tried it around about 15.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it was really rotten because Mum was actually at home in palliative care, so she was passing away. She had 6 months to live with a tumour. My dad was a senior Sergeant Detective David Wale, going to work as a policeman, doing undercover work. And because Mum was sick, this Dad's best friend made an offer to come and do some work around the home, help around the home and fix some things. And he was perving on me in the shower. He was trying to enter my bedroom. He was making comments to me. And then I went to his daughter's place, and I was supposed to spend time with her upstairs in the girls' bedroom. And they had a shop. They had a fish and chip shop. And he said he was sick, and he said that all three daughters and his wife had to go to the shop. And they were arguing I've been sworn to secrecy ever since that time by the daughters, because they were also molested by him. So they argued. And which was good that I heard that, because I realized that only one person needed to go, or the adult and one child, and that my friend could stay with me and her sister and we could play, but he sent them all off. And he was home with his 3-year-old son, and he sent I went and had a shower. I was in the bedroom in a towel, getting ready to get into pajamas, and I was just going to go to bed. I felt safe behind the door. I'm like, I don't have to go near him. He doesn't have to tap me on the bum or say inappropriate things or put me down. And then the 3-year-old came up, and he's telling me to come down. Dad wants you. And I'm like, no, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'm not coming down. And next thing I know, this man burst in, pushed me to the bed, pulled the towel open and tried to penetrate me, and was grabbing me by the breasts. And I punched him in the face.
Oh, you go, girl. Oh, mother.
My dad trained us in boxing, and I was learning karate, and I'd had a few situations at school where my dad had encouraged me to defend myself against bullies and stand up for myself. So I stood up for myself, and he called me a few choice names, got up and left. But it was at that point that I knew I was in trouble if I stayed around him ever again. Look, he never got his way with me, but he rubbished me to my dad. He made up stories. My mum had passed. My dad was vulnerable. My dad was having these talks with me about, why are you acting out? And I'm trying to say, I'm not, without telling my dad what had happened, because I'm now not going to, now that something has happened and I've put it all together and it's not water off a duck's back anymore,
Yeah.
I'm not going to land this on my dad's plate. My dad's at the kitchen bench crying himself to sleep at night. I've put my brothers to bed. I'm putting my brothers to bed, and then I'm coming and rubbing my dad's back until he falls asleep, and then I'm gently waking him up and getting him to go into the bed where his wife had passed. He was trying to avoid going to bed. And I wasn't going to pass this on to him. I wasn't going to tell him. I wasn't going to put this on his plate. I mean, I was scared because he'd recently just had a friend who had another policeman it's trigger warning, who had taken his life by hanging himself on his home door, and my dad had come home from that as well. So there was no way known I was going to do that and give him something else, because once, some years ago, I remember we heard Dad talking to another policeman friend, and they were talking about a situation where they put a rapist in jail, and Dad was saying, if it ever happened to my daughter, I'd take my gun, and it's probably the wrong thing to do, he said, but I'm afraid that I might do that, take my gun and shoot that person. And then I'd end up in jail, and that would be the worst thing to do. So you can understand, I was never going to tell my dad. But my dad actually did end up taking his life.
Fur's journey is just beginning to unfold. We've only scratched the surface of how she survived the unthinkable and found her voice again. In part 2, Fur opens up about the daily practice that saved her life: raw food, nature, sleep, and the power of processing emotions rather than burying them. You'll hear how she turned pain into purpose and why self-expression became her greatest healing tool. Definitely don't miss part 2, because this is where the transformation truly begins. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.